So good afternoon, and welcome to the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. I'm Professor Susan Moffett. I'm pleased to see all of you with us here today for a conversation on education, opportunity, and prosperity with our two very distinguished guests, Dr. Kakenya Ntaya and Senior Fellow Pamela Reeves. And it's my honor to introduce you to both of them today. Dr. Ntaya is the founder and president of the Kakenya Center for Excellence, an international nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance the development of rural communities by creating transformational initiatives designed to equip girls to expand their horizons and realize their full potential. In May of 2009, the Kakenya Center for Excellence opened the first girls' primary boarding school in the Enosine area of Kenya and currently has nearly 200 students in grades 4 through 8. Along with the boarding school, the Kakenya Center for Excellence's Girls Empowerment approach includes transformative health and leadership training for more than 3,000 girls and boys in the Transmara district of Kenya. It also supports boarding school graduates as they continue on to high school. Dr. Ntaya has received many awards, including the Global Women's Right Award from the Feminist Majority Foundation. She was recognized by Women in the World as a woman of impact. She was named a top 10 CNN hero, named as one of Newsweek's 150 women who shake the world, and was recognized by Women Deliver 100 as one of the most inspiring people delivering for girls and women. The list goes on and on. We're delighted to have you here with us today, and we're grateful to have Senior Fellow Pamela Reeves help moderate our conversation. Senior Fellow Reeves is a graduate of Brown University and Yale University. She advises international organizations, foundations, and companies on building public-private partnerships and developing gender strategies to achieve both business and public purpose results. She is the Senior Advisor for Gender Strategy to the Executive Office of Melinda Gates, and she is the former Director of Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton's International Fund for Women and Girls at the United States Department of State. Previously, she served as senior advisor to the Nike Foundation, where she created the Girl Declaration Program. And earlier in her career, she served as the UN's Human Rights Officer in Liberia during that country's civil war, and she has served as an advisor to the election commissions of many different countries. We're grateful to have her with us here at the Watson Institute, teaching on global women's issues, and she's also a member of the Brown University Corporation. Our time together will proceed as follows. Senior Fellow Reeves will engage in conversation with Dr. Ntaya, and then we will open up the floor to your questions. But now would you join me, please, in welcoming our honored guests with a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Professor Moffett, that's very nice. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And I want to thank you for the work you're doing here on gender and other issues. And I want to thank Director Steinfeld here at Watson for all the tremendous work being done here and for the opportunities being created for this kind of conversation, for all the interconnections we're able to make among departments to make development work, to make work in education, to make work in gender, to make all sorts of work come alive, to make sense, and to really grow some positive solutions around the world. And I just want to say, since Professor Moffett noted my service in Liberia, that we have here today the former U.S. ambassador to Liberia during that time and his wife, Bill Twaddell, Ambassador Twaddell, and Susan Hardy, who really made my time in Liberia manageable. It was a difficult time, so thank you for joining us today. And to all of you here, I also want to thank the Africa Initiative for co-sponsoring this event today, and Women Empowered. And I see some Women Empowered folk around the room. So thank you for co-sponsoring this and for joining us today. And hello to all of my students who I see in the audience as well. I had the privilege of meeting Kakenya Ntaya because of my work at the State Department. And I've been in global development work for 30 years. And it is sadly an all too rare occurrence to meet somebody who understands the issues at hand so deeply and so well that they can actually solve the problem. And that is what Kekenya is doing. And that's one of the many reasons that I admire Kekenya so deeply. And I'm going to let her tell her own story, but it's the story of turning the tide. It's a story of transforming the lives of individual girls, and in so doing, transforming the lives of communities, of the potential for growth and of allowing people to thrive. And in the trajectory of that growth, affecting countries, economies, and really all of us around the world. So I don't think what Kekenya is doing is a small thing by any stretch of the imagination, and it is not. But my big eyes see it as nothing less than transforming the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kekenya has a remarkable TED Talk that I urge you all to watch. And she's been honored, as Professor Moffitt said, as a CNN hero. She was a National Geographic explorer. And she's a graduate of Randolph-Macon Women's College here in the United States and holds a PhD from Pittsburgh. And that is just the beginning. So, Kekenya, I wonder if you would start us off by just to contextualize this. Yours is a story of breaking through cultural norms. It's a situation of questioning the status quo, of accepting nothing and debunking myths, which is sort of what we do at Brown every day. I know my students do. But you started the way so many girls, rural girls around the world, certainly in Kenya, Maasai girls, start in a relatively isolated rural setting with not a lot of opportunity in front of them. So I think what we'd really love to know, though it's a step-by-step process, is how you get from there to here. And I'd love to hear you tell some of your story to get us started.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for bringing me here to Brown today, and the Institute for hosting this discussion, and all of you for coming to listen to my story and also the stories of many women and girls that we work with in Kenya. I grew up in a small village. How many have been to Kenya? Oh, yeah. So we have to describe where Kenya is now. No. But when you hear Kenya, the first thing that, just type Kenya, the first thing that comes up is these people who are dressed in red and they jump high. That's like our entrance to the country. But I happen to come from this very famous group. I mean, everywhere around the world they are known, the Maasai people. We are known because we are very traditional. I think we are one of the very few Kenyan tribes that have really tried to hold on to our traditions. So I grew up in the rural village where no running water, no electricity, that's life. We collect firewood from the river and, from the bushes, and that was my day life. But, I was very fortunate that I was able to go to school. Most girls go to school or boys go to school just to socialize. And so we just go to socialize and kind of figure when I got to school, I was very inspired by my teachers who were dressed nice. As any little girl in the village, she wants to be a little princess. Trust me, if you talk to a 7-year-old, I think in Kenya and in here in the US or around the world, they kind of just share the same thing. They want to look pretty. And that time I used to have 3 pair of dresses, one for church and one for going to school and one for wearing at home. But my teachers, they kind of had a dress every single day. They had a different new dress, or they all looked new. But most important, they actually wore high heel shoes. And that time I had no shoes. So my drive for inspirational to look for education was to wear shoes and dresses. But they also had they looked happy. They had a good life. The way I looked at my mother, my dad was a policeman, and he was really never home. But whenever he came home, he was very abusive to my mother, and he beat her. He sold the things we had, and my mother was very helpless because as a woman, she can own property, and as a woman, she was seen as a child. That's why if she did something wrong, she can be disciplined. And it was not just my mother. I saw this to other women in the village, and I was engaged myself when I was 5. I put 5 as a number, but as I know, starting just walking, I knew who my husband was going to be. And, I knew that somehow, if I continue with this life at home, I was going to be a property to somebody who was going to be disciplining me. I was going to live this life. So I went to school and I said, wow, I'm going to stick with this until I have those dresses and all of that. But it wasn't easy because all girls, and there's something called peer pressure. When you also go to school, it's like, the age, the age of, as we start getting to puberty, we go through the female genital cutting. For us, it's a ceremony that is going to transition you to womanhood. Everybody's excited about it, and you've been brainwashed that this is the thing that's going to make you a woman, and everybody looked forward to it. And we were told that the best thing that can happen to a woman or a girl is to get married and have children and have a husband, and really that's what everybody was told to do. And so, but inside me, I was like, I think I want to be a teacher. Because I thought that would look different. I'm the firstborn in my family of 8. So I was helping my mother bring up my little siblings. I kept thinking, if I'm just helping my mom, and it's so hard work, what's going to happen when I'm a wife myself? So that's where really my kind of starting to push tradition and start to admire something. And I thought, I have to find ways to becoming a teacher.
But thinking about finding ways and then finding ways in a traditional setting is a little bit different. So would you describe yourself as having a typical experience as a 12-year-old Maasai girl? Were there opportunities for other girls, or did you create your own opportunity? Where was that switch?
As I said earlier, that the first switch was that desire in me to become something that my mother was not, and to want something that I've seen out there that most girls were not admiring. So by the time we were reaching 12, we start in primary school, class 1, there's so many of us as girls. By the time we were in 6th grade, my best friend got married, and everybody kind of just got married. And, there's panic. Oh my God, I'm going to get married. And because it's like, that's what everybody does. And I didn't want that. And I had to figure out a way of coming. I approached my dad, and traditionally, we don't talk to fathers. If I want something as a girl from my father, fathers stay with their boys and the mother stays with their girls. And if I need something from my father, I have to send my mother to go tell my father what I need. But I had to find a way, because I knew that my father was very abusive to my mom. If he went to tell her what I wanted to tell my dad, like, I'm not going to go through this ceremony, I want to go to, I'm not going to become a woman, I want to go to school. And my mother was going to be beaten. But culturally, I also knew that at that age, my father cannot beat me because I'm a big girl. Yeah, 12, you're 13, you're a big girl. And if he beats me, he will see my nakedness, and that's a very shameful thing. So he can't beat me. So if whatever I say to him, he can't harm me. So I was the safest person just to go to him and say, look, Dad, I cannot go through this cut. I wanted to remain as a girl. And, one of the things I told him, I don't want to get married. So he looked at me, and traditionally, I was going, once you go through the ceremony, you get married. That's like everybody does that. So I knew I wanted to stay. But then, if I stayed as a girl at that age, it's a very shameful thing. He would not have a place in the bus for him to be, people will call him a father of that girl who ran away. There's a stigma. There's a lot of issues around the woman who has not been cut. And him bearing that was too much. So I promised him that, I will go through it if you let me go back to school, or else I'll run away. So we had a deal. And here I am. So we finished the discussion.
Oh, no. So you're the 12-year-old Maasai girl who negotiated with her father and said...
Yes, and we left it there.
And we left it there.
Yes.
Until we went on to everything else that you've accomplished. So FGM, female genital mutilation, some people call it cutting, affects 200 million girls in the world, or has affected.
It has affected, yes.
And there's 3 million a year at risk of having it continue. And interestingly, it happens in the Western world as well. Some cultures continue to practice this here in the United States, in England, and all sorts of places. Couple that with the fact that every year 15 million girls under 18 are married, some as early as 8 or 9 years old. And 63 million girls, I think I have these numbers right, are still out of school today, about half primary, half secondary. So that's a pretty daunting trifecta. And yet, somehow you've made the equation between education and some of these other, I would say, systemic barriers, cultural norm barriers, harmful traditional practices, that has made great success and great promise for the girls in your school. So if you don't mind leading us through the thought process starting KCE, what you're actually doing on the ground, and what the results are, in 5 minutes. I think that equation is really a remarkable thing that you have put your finger on, and many in the world are too slow to have been able to accomplish.
I think, I negotiated my first life when I was 12, and really that kind of made me believe that anything you want, you can actually get it. I ended up at the University at Randolph-Macon. That was another whole story, how I got on the plane and leave my community. But what happened at the university, and this is where really, I'm glad there are students in the audience. It's like, I came to the university, I had never used a computer. I had never seen a library, never gone online. I was in this little village where women had no access to newspapers or radios, because those have men stuff. And all of a sudden, I had all this information kind of just like coming to me. I'm like, female genital cutting? You mean it's a violation of women's rights? You mean what I'm feeling, it's not okay? Like, how did I get into this? And knowing, learning about it. And, the hardest was to find that it's against the law in Kenya. And this thing was being publicly done in my village. And, you struggle with that. And knowing that as a girl, you actually have a right to go to school. For us, girls who are getting married, the dowry taken to educate a boy. Because the boys carry the name of the family, and the girl, the best thing that can happen to her is to have children. And, I'm at the university, I'm like, how does this work? And that's when my whole world opens up. Learning about the UN, learning about NGOs, and I'm like, how come they're not in my place? And that is really where when I left my community, I had promised my people that I'll come back. I'll come back to use my education. Somehow, I don't know how, I kind of felt that whatever was happening was wrong. So when I came to the university, it solidified that what I knew. So education had made an impact in my life. It's what changed me. So I wanted to try to see how I could start with 10 girls and just give hope to them. Make sure that they don't go through female genital cutting, make sure that they don't get married at 12, make sure that they have an education, and make sure that they have dreams, and make sure that they can actually believe that their dreams can become a reality. And over the years, I would have conversations with mothers and women, and I would talk to them about FGM and the things that are happening, difficulties during childbirth, and they're like, oh, I'm like, why that is so common here? It's because of FGM, and because they didn't know that information, they couldn't connect. I will start having those discussions, and I will tell them, would you want your daughter to go through the same thing like you did? There are a lot of psychological issues that affect women who go, because it's torture. I mean, think about a 12-year-old that in your life being cut with a knife, and they're not allowed to grieve, they're not allowed to, be human. They're like stones. I mean, you're told to keep quiet, and they might have even seen others die because of infections, and so that thing it was a silent. We are told not to talk about it. So when I started talking about it, people are like, oh, nothing happens to her. She's talking about it. Because we are told if you talk about it, something bad is going to happen to you. So I just needed to create a space and a place where people can have a dialogue. And I started the school, and when I started the school, because I thought that girls needed to be in their own space. Because when we went to the mixed boys schools or mixed schools where there are boys, the teachers always preferred the boys. I mean, the girls are reduced to sweeping the classroom, they're reduced to collecting firewood, even in school. Girls have, when they reach puberty, of course, they have, periods come and they miss school because they don't have sanitary pads, and there's no space to talk about these things. So when I started the school, for me it was really just, I wanted a place where girls can be girls and girls can be children. And so we took the first group of girls. It's a very interesting story because I was a university student. I was working on my PhD at the University of Pittsburgh, and my professor is telling me, Kakenya, you are in the middle, you've not even finished your coursework. You cannot start a major project. And I told her, well, I'm just going to start with 10 girls, I figured out those 10 I can manage. I get in this community because I've been talking to people about these issues for like 3 years. And I said, now I'm going to build a school. And 100 girls came. So my 10, poop. I ended up with 30 girls. We had no roof. We just had borrowed a little shanty, like a teen house. I put them there. I got a teacher, and I just started telling people about their story and how determined they are, and how, when given an opportunity, they can thrive. I didn't think about food, because I kind of like we don't think about food, how important that food is, until you have children who are coming to school with no food. And then you're like, oh, at 10 o'clock they are falling asleep. Why? Because they walked 3 to 4 miles, because we didn't have a boarding school then, we didn't have the facility, they were walking to school. By the time they get to school, they're tired. I didn't think about food, so I started feeding them. And all of a sudden you see the change, and eventually we built a boarding school, and now they stay in the school, and it's just been a really amazing thing. Information is so critical. It's so important. And when you talk about education, we just don't talk about the math and the sciences and all of that. It's really about all kind of education. I started with our health and leadership training program, which goes out to the villages, because they kept coming. So many wants to come, and I could only handle very few of them. So we started going to the schools and teaching people about health issues, from washing hands to, you know, our goal, of course, is to teach them about FGM and the other stuff, but we start with washing hands. Where's our common ground? So we talk about those things. We work with boys, talking about leadership, and leadership is really about looking up. Yeah, there's no theory like, you know, the theories that you learn in class. Is really about looking up, because the society has told the girls that looking up is being rude. And so a proper girl is supposed to be well behaved, you look down. And in class, the girls don't raise hands because they have to think, even here, I mean, go look at your class. They always have to think like 3 times before they raise their hand. And so I just wanted to bring people to talk. And so here we are. Now we have educated 8,000 boys and girls. We work with 100 schools on just giving them information, just changing that. And the teachers come and say, Kakenya, what did you do to them? We talk about self-defense for girls, because there's a lot of rape and defilements and people don't talk about it. So we come to the class and we teach. And after that, they just kind of feel like empowered, and they want to. Now the fathers.
I was going to ask.
Oh my goodness, the fathers are the most proud fathers. Our first group of girls that we sent to high school 4 years ago are graduating this year from high school. 26 girls, all of them going to university next year. And it's amazing when you show people what an education can actually do. You know, the biggest problem when we were doing development, or when people try to end issues, we come and say, this is bad. But we don't show what is actually good. Because if this is what people have believed for years, how are you going to just all of a sudden say this is bad? So what I did is we worked with each family. And for me, I say that girl is an opening door for that family. She will have those discussions. The family will grow with her. The family will see her go to high school. The family will see her go to university. They will see her not cut. They will see her get married. They will grow with her. And she becomes the change in her family. And connecting all of them is the whole village and the whole world. That's really change for me. Is you start with that one and show people what it means. For the first time when we were sending girls to high school, the fathers were like, we didn't know girls are good in math. I'm like, really? Because all of a sudden these girls, they were performing at the top in the county where we are in. And every father wants to be part of the success.
Right.
So they're happy.
Well, Kakenya won't tell you all the wonderful things that have resulted from her school, but I will tell you that her girls get the highest marks on the national exams. And, you know, they're girls, they're rural girls, they're
Yeah.
Maasai girls. I mean, that's kind of crazy in Kenya. And so it's a demonstration of what's possible, what you're saying. You have eliminated FGM and child marriage in all of your girls,
Yep.
right? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
It does not happen. The girls are not getting pregnant early. It's remarkable. And one of the things that I think is so different, besides the optimism and enthusiasm and clear capacity of Kakenya herself, is that it is a public-private partnership in many ways. To talk about the teachers at your school.
So the school is a partnership with the government, because at the end of the day, for me, it's always how do you get to work with 100 schools instead of one school? And so the partnership is that the government gives us about 5%. That's what we do in the school. So they give us some teachers, and we really partner with them. That enables us to train teachers in other schools too. It enables us to do the trainings. Right now, we are targeting in the next 3 years to go to 500 schools. It enables us, it's really a door opener for us. So we're like, you're part of us. How do we scale this project? And they have the personnel and the capacity. We just come in and train and they take it over. And because in order to really change things that have always undermined women to progress, you have to bring everybody on the table. So those head of schools mostly I want to say about 80% are male. So we want them to be the key messenger deliverer for us. And if you look at the education office, most of the key positions are held by men, and so they have to come along. And you have to bring fathers, mothers, children, everybody has to be on the table to really make the difference. To really make the difference.
So we're going to go to questions, and I just want to say one thing. When President Obama went to Kenya, you might remember, he held a civil society meeting, and he gathered leaders of civil society throughout Kenya, and there was one person in the audience with whom he spoke, a girl named Lynette, and you might remember this, you might have seen it on the news. She stood up and she said, "I want to be a cardiologist." And President Obama was enamored of this child, and I know from my government people that, I'm sure I'm not supposed to say this out loud, that he didn't want his picture taken with anybody except Lynette. And she sat down and he made her stand up again so he could ask questions. Lynette was one of Kekenya's students. And that is the kind of change that Kekenya has enabled, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for it? And I see students as well as non-students, so I hope you'll open up. Yes?
Yeah, so you talked about training for teachers. Could you talk a little bit about like how mindsets of education change?
I think what I have learned over the last 6 or 8 years is change takes time. You will call for the first meeting, and I think the way NGOs have done work is people just come to get an allowance, sitting allowance. Who came up with that idea? So they come with a sitting allowance, and then I tell them there's no sitting allowance. I'll feed you, and I'll give you information. And then the next time, no one shows up. And then you're like, oh, that's bad. But how? Because you really have to get out of that. I want people to desire. I want people to be part of change. So I started just putting a word out there, who wants to change their school? And somehow there are always people within those situations that actually come. So when they started coming, and then they started changing their schools, and then those who didn't come want to come. And it's like, it's really about, we have to think differently, and we have to change the way things have been done in the past, and we have to bring people along. And over time, my school has really become like a model where people come and learn within our school. So that has also been another way we can sponsor teachers to come to our school to spend a week and learn with our teachers. We can bring the students into our school. We can take our students to their school. And within those interactions, a lot happen on the side within the teachers. A lot happen. There's a lot of collaborations, and it just takes time. It takes time. I can tell you now that for sure there is no girl in the 100 schools that we work with who, if she says, my dad is going to mutilate me, I need help, she will get support. If she says, I'm not going to get married, I want to go to school, she will get support. She will get support from the teachers in our school, but she also has access to us. And it's really about bringing too many people to hear about these things and training them and enabling them. And the teachers, for the long time, I think the biggest problem for them, they're like, Kenya, now we save them, what do we do with them? Where do we put them? You know, we don't have a safe home. We don't have a boarding school like you. We don't have, what do we do? So we started working with them. Yes, the first place is always to go and report the case to the police, because when you take the kid, you don't want the parents to come after you. So we started working with the police, and the police talk to their parents. And now the moment the girl is identified as at risk, the parents are seen as the ones, if anything happens to her, they will go in. So it's like really a lot of change, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's change that I'm able to, like now where we are, we're able to do more than I would say 5 years ago. And next year, we will even do bigger stuff
I'm ready.
than when we were. Because kind of you have a whole village, talking your talk, and that takes time.
If I could build on that, I'd love to hear more about what you would like to do in the near term. So what would you like to have happen tomorrow? And then where would you like to go from beyond and more systemically? Again, you did such a nice job of weaving together the importance of the individual and then that individual feeding in and changing the system.
So, the dreamer in me wants to change the world in one day, which is not possible. But right now, what we are working on is really to build a model, build a tool that can any person who is an entrepreneur who is excited about solving issues in the world, and not just in the world, rural communities, because they're really forgotten. There are issues in the rural community that require special attention. So you can't go, there's no running water, there's no electricity, there is no paved roads, there's no, internet is like barely, you can barely put on read your email. So how do you take somebody who is so excited about changing the world, who is educated in Brown, with all the tools you have here, to a rural community where that they feel that empowers them is not there? So we really want to come up with a formula and really share our practices and show you, if you want to go to a rural community, this is where you want to start with. And that's my next 5-year plan. Of course, my goal eventually is to really build a group of women leaders that will change Kenya and hopefully the world, because my goal is that, yes, I might not be in parliament, but I want one of my girls to be in parliament, and she's going to be the best girl. I want girls in who are lawyers. I want the ones, these girls have dreams. I want them to be doctors. I want each one of them, as they land wherever they are, they're going to be the best. And so when you call on to changing something, you have planted, telling you, like, thousands of girls in those leadership positions, and the world problem has been solved. So that's really where, because the problems we have in Africa right now, we really have to change the entire leadership. We look at corruption, you look at the issues that are there, it's just, sometimes you're just like, how do I put all these leaders into a corner and then start afresh? Because it's like a disease that just keeps crippling. Corruption, it destroys our countries. We're not poor. You look at it's just we're poorly run. People have different ambitions. How can we put leaders who have the desire of people in the place? And that's really where we want to go to. So I built my girls with that, knowing that somebody helped me. I got an education because I had a scholarship. And somebody has helped them, and they have to help somebody. And really, it's about not me, it's about us making a difference in the world. And I challenge people, even for those in this room today, we all must leave the world better than we started. We all have to do that. Because if we all keep destroying it, then our grandkids, there will be no world for them. So can we just start improving, even just within your household?
Thank you.
You said that 26 girls graduated from high school.
They graduate this year.
They just graduated this year. Any of them have scholarships to attend school in the United States as you did?
We are working on that. I'm looking.
Good.
Yes. Anybody who knows scholarships, please let me know.
Kenya has been very clear over the years with me that, sometimes you're ready, sometimes you're not. She's got 26, she knows because she's been to college in the United States, American college-ready girls. And so I think they're going to spend this year understanding the college admissions process, finishing up whatever tests, or I don't know what you have to do that they have to finish up, and then finding their way, if not to America, then to that quality equivalent school in another country?
In Kenya, we have gotten 2 scholarships already to Australia. I was there last month. I'm speaking to my university. Hopefully some girls will come here. But what we're doing right now is really preparing them for college. It's, computer skills, just preparing them to that future, to that life in college, because they grew up in the village. Of course, most of them have gone to different high schools in the country, but still the mentality of being in the rural village, they come back to their homes and all they see is their mothers washing dishes and clothes, and it's okay, but how do you change the university setting? You have to. I went through a huge culture shock, and I was grateful that I went to a small university. If I went to a big university, I don't know how I would have survived, because everything from eating salad, we don't eat salad, to I had. My funny story is putting ice cream in the microwave. So
It was so cold.
It was so cold. So there's all those. Everybody's laughing at it. But that's culture shock. The snow is really the lights. When you don't have lights 24 hours all the time, it affects you. I used to be going crazy. I couldn't sleep. There were just lights. And there's electricity ding, all the time. Everything is a culture shock. So it takes time. I want to prepare them. I always tell my girls I don't want them to start where I started. They have to step on my shoulder and they have to rise above. So I want them, when they land in college, they're not trying to figure out which language do I speak, because from I left Nairobi to the US, my English disappeared. But really preparing them for college. So.
I find myself with a microphone. Have you had any luck grafting your ideas onto that public part of your public-private collaboration through the administrators or the teachers or government officials? Have they picked up the ideas that you have inculcated in your village and transported them and begun to use them as a template in the bigger national picture?
So now we are working on that specific aspect, and with our health and leadership training, what we are partnering with them is we are coming up with a curriculum that will go into schools, and we will teach their teachers to actually train on these issues. And the health and leadership is really about life skills. It's about the law. It's about your rights. It's really kind of just empowering humans, and it's empowering boys and girls, and that enables them to thrive in their math and English and the other stuff. So that has been, we are working with the education office to really make sure that happens, and that's one of our key thing. And the other thing that we're also working is that in the Kenyan Education Act, we just recently opened up where people can partner with the government, but there is now no detail on how you can partner with the government. And so we are working to create that tool that enables people who are well-wishers or organizations of people who want to make a difference in Kenya. You can actually go to the country and you go to the education office and say, I'm interested in this area in education. Can you put me in link into a youth school? And you go to that school and you'll be able to be told, this is how you can partner with us. So there are a lot of things that we are learning and we want to share. And it's been very exciting because we do nothing without the government. We work with them. They can be very frustrating sometimes, but we're patient.
But at the same time, you're building a new school,
Yes.
which will be all private, or?
Yes, that's the private venture that I talked about earlier. If you want to go to a rural community as an entrepreneur who wants to invest in education, what do you need to do? So that is a whole private school. It looks about water, so, all the waste management, because when you go there, no flash toilet. So we have to figure out what are the economic ecosystems ways that you can have still those technologies, but they're friendly and you don't have to transport them out of whatever. Looking at the energy, solar, how do you get that? Buildings, how do you build with local material that is So it's a whole lot of stuff. It's gonna be exciting to have all this on paper and in 5 years to really tell somebody this is how we did it and this is how you can do it, and it's not hard. You just do it. It just requires to do. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of you've been through all this with me. So, but every little thing is really, we are really looking keenly. How do you tap all the water, because there are no water? So do you drill the water? Do you tap the water from the roof? How do you store the water? I mean, it's all of that we're looking at.
And she just said it's not hard. I just want to point that out. I think I saw a question over here. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead and then go ahead. Second.
So you mentioned that some of your programs target boys, and I was wondering, how do you serve girls who are the most at risk while also trying to educate boys to respect the things that your girls accomplish and are going to accomplish? Like, how do you kind of balance those two initiatives?
So I started saying, I just want to work with girls. You boys are spoiled, you have it all, leave me alone, go away, I'm empowering my girls. Then we celebrated the International Day of the Girl. And for the first time, the whole village was singing about girls. Talk about boys being put at risk. They were not happy. They were in the next school. The next day they told the girls in their school, go to that school for girls. We don't want you here. And I was like, oh, we have a problem here. And, because they felt left out. So we had to start, bringing them, now, we are a girls' school, can we play with your boys' team, volleyball? And then the worst, my girls play better than them. These women. And they were like, okay, let's do mock exams together. Let's do math and English together. And then my girls are the top 10. And then it's like, oh gosh. So we had to figure out how do we make the boys still feel like a boy and they feel that they are part of the whole thing. So we started the training program where they have a whole day of boys and we really talk about the issues that they go through. Because the socialization also start happening with them. They are told, don't go to the kitchen. Why are you taking care of the children? Why are you collecting water? You're being a girl. So we started teaching them that we can all work together. And we start from a point of your sister. Wouldn't you want your sister to do well like you? And just those trainings, we've been really lucky to have very good trainers who understand how to bring those things. And now it's a healthy competition that, yes, they still play ball together, from tag rugby to volleyball and soccer, to exams together, but it's a healthy competition and they feel that they are part of that. So that's how the men came along. That's how the boys came into our training. We actually I never intended to this is the plan, is to include boys, but when you go to a rural community, you have to assess the situation and you have to be willing to adapt with the situation and to change. And that's most of the things that when we do as NGOs go to this community, they just say, our work is on FGM only. Then what happened if they got pregnant? What happened when they need school fees? What happened when they need sanitary pads? What happened? You have to look at a whole holistic program. You can't just say, my work is just education, or our work is to give. One that makes me laugh all the time, we just give them uniform. We send them to school, and I'm thinking, yes, that's great. But do you know what happened in school when they get there? They're reduced to that home girl again. So you really have to work an empowerment program that is holistic to be able to empower community, to be able to empower women, to be able to empower boys.
And there was another question.
So my question is whether you faced resistance or backlash from either the girls themselves or their families when challenging these norms and values that are so deeply embedded in their culture.
So, because we start when the girls, it's a critical age, it's 8, 9, 10-year-olds. That's the age when the society is telling the girls, now you're a big girl, you're supposed to behave, don't play, don't do. So they have a lot of things they tell them. And we take those girls and put them in our school. When we put them in our school, the first thing the parents know, once the girl is in my school, they're not leaving that school until they finish school. So it takes time for them to accept. At first, they used to see how far I can actually go, and then they realized Kakenya doesn't play. One of our girls was going to be mutilated, and trust me, that became a teaching lesson. I tried to get so the girl told the teacher. The teacher is like, Kakenya, we have an issue. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's the issue? So they told me what the issue is. This girl is going to be cut this Christmas. And I'm like, okay, first thing, get the chief to help. And the chief is like, what? What do you mean? Let her go be cut. Where do you want me to put her? I said, oh, okay. I go back to the next level. Every level I went, everybody didn't want to help. So I found this is where you have to know the law and you have to know the people at the high top. So I call the head of the biggest lawyer in the country, who called the biggest police person in the country to give orders for that girl to be rescued. All of a sudden, the chief went running, the DO went running, everybody went running with the big truck with the police. They're going to rescue this girl, and I was like, oh, that's not what I was imagining. That day, the school opened, and the chief came and sat every single parent of my school. Said, all of you, you have to sign this paper. You cannot cut your girls. And it became the rule. The girls come to my school, no one will touch them. No one will cut them. And it's really about pushing that. And first, the chief was not supportive. Now he's 100% supportive. I mean, it's really about knowing who are the players and not taking a no for an answer, especially when the life of somebody is at the line. And there's always a way. And when we did that, the story changed. It became normal. Now people are like, those are Kakenya girls, don't touch. And now they know when the girls come to our trainings, they're like, oh my goodness, she's changed. Like, so right now the biggest issues I have is like the politicians. They think I'm going to become the member of parliament and all of that. And I'm like, no, really, I'm not interested in that now. But because everybody's talking about. You know what they're talking about is we have educated boys. None has ever come back. We've educated one girl, and she has done, one was saying she has done something that 100 men have never done. So they keep going up and up, but it's really showing about, one, it's not just, of course they always reduced me when I was starting as this girl, this woman, and those words were meant to put me down. They are meant to put me in my position. But I will rise up and I will speak, and whatever they said is cancelled. So, you know, you will find them referring, this girl, she's come back, this girl. And then I was like, no, I am so-and-so. This is my name. And they started changing. And it takes time, but you'll be amazed how people come along when you stay longer. So don't run away.
Kakenya, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you all for coming. I want you to not forget every single thing she just said, because I think it's relevant for all of us in all of our lives. And we have the real privilege Kakenya is going to teach in my class this afternoon. And she's doing all sorts of other things, so stay tuned for this space. Thank you all for coming, particularly in this rainy weather. Sue, thank you so much for hosting this. And again, the Africa Initiative and Women Empowered and Watson. And thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.